this Beltug Summer Bar. And here on site, people at home can't see that in the live streaming, but you are quite numerous, and that tells me you felt kind of enthusiastic to leave your home office for a few hours. Well, I had the same feeling. Welcome. In a nutshell, this is your trusted Beltug, the association that axes around these 4 pillars through recommendations that you can download from the Beltug website, through moments of knowledge sharing, through exchanging best practices with one another, an association that forms one strong voice of the business users and expresses that voice towards government, towards regulators and ICT providers. Important to us is that we take away the barriers that you face in your digital strategy and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And today we are a community of over 1,900 people representing more or less 490 companies, and almost 1,500 of them are ICT decision makers, business users, people from various sectors like banks, like retail, pharmaceutical companies, public institutions, hospitals, and so on, and so on. And the more companies we have in our community, the stronger we are. Early this summer, I think it was June, we asked you about the ICT topics that are close at heart to you. And many thanks, Beltug members, for letting us know where your priorities lie and what you want Beltug to work on. With 268 responses from over 150 companies, we trust that the working plan we are rolling out is for all of our members and is supported by all of these members. Because within the community, we have a variety of people. Some of you are CIOs, others are experts in IT security, or you are an architect or an expert in the infrastructure of your ICT environment. Some of you work for a company that is focused on Belgium, others for global organizations. And some companies are more private, others are public institutions. And that context changes the way you look at your digital strategy and at times changes the challenges you face. Well, based on what you shared in that Priorities Compass, in that survey, we trust we have a working plan, an action plan that is suitable and inspiring for all of you. Let's have a look at it. This is the first half, the top half of the priorities. And you can see that the topics are very heterogeneous. And that's not a surprise. The challenges you face are very heterogeneous. That makes sense. Security topics in general, though, well, they are very prominent. That has been for the last years, and that continues to stay that way. Data governance also becomes a top priority for every organization. And of course, not a surprise either, the hybrid workplace with the challenges around more working at home, home working in a large scale, and now the return to the office. IT architecture issues and vendor relations are also very high on your priorities list. Let's zoom in and start with security. It is a solid theme, and the number one in your list, on the previous slide, is the IT security strategy with angles like security by design and zero trust or cloud security. Another topic, user awareness. How to make sure that your users are well aware of your security strategy, and even more that your users are maybe more and with you vigilant for the threats that surround us. Another topic is security governance, also from major importance to you. And one that is climbing the list is OT security, operational technology and the security that is needed around that. And what is now the best choice for your architecture? Do you stay on premise? Do you go entirely into the cloud? Or do you choose a hybrid solution? It is a question that continues to struggle and to bother many of you. It remains a complex theme with many angles, the costs, the security, and we see this struggle in topics like how can I go to a robust architecture that is suitable for the deployment of an agile service delivery. In that topic, we see the link between the architecture, the IT on the one hand, and the business, the service delivery of your customers on the other hand. And it supports the idea that since a decade, the CIO and his team aren't isolated in a basement or on an island. How do you want to call it? They are in touch with the business and they need to be. Another topic, getting control over your hybrid IT environment with the XLAs, the performance, multi-cloud operations, microservices, and so on.
And so, of course, as you all have seen probably in the priority lists, which is going very, very high, is the data governance. And there is a lot of work for us to do together because companies have concerns about how to share our data. Just recently, we received different calls or we were contacted by different companies saying, okay, we have a nicely developed software with an IT supplier, but afterwards we saw that the data we used to together co-create that software were used to sell the solutions to competitors. And so you see there's a whole new question coming up. So we need to help companies to help with contract clauses on sharing data and so on. Sharing data is something. The other one is how to keep control over your data. As Anne just said, so there's a lot of IT now in the cloud, but then all your data are at the cloud service providers, which is okay, but then there are concerns about security, about the trust, about the vendor lock-in, and so on. So there are a lot of new questions popping up. So the cloud, the relying on the cloud and the data, it goes absolutely together. And we also need to say, if we look at the market figures we have from within our community, we see that 89% of the Belgian companies is using O365. We see, if we ask on the infrastructure as a service, that if you take AWS, Microsoft, and Google, that almost the whole bunch of data is in those data centers. So there's a lot of work to do. So if you go to the regulation, because why is regulation so important? You've all seen what the result is of the GDPR. So although the intentions of GDPR are very good to protect the personal data, in practice we see that companies are really having a lot of trouble by dealing with the gray areas, with the need of guidance from the regulators. Just together with our sister associations in France, Germany, and the Netherlands, we spent almost the whole of the month of August to reply to a consultation from Europe on the data governance. So they want to make a data act where they want to regulate everything about data, which goes together again with the data problems and the relying on the cloud service providers. And so all these new world, all these new settings, they will be so important in the years to come that we absolutely need to be there next to the voice of the business, of the residential users, the consumers, and next to the voice of the IT suppliers. So we are fortunately very welcome at the level of the European Commission, but we have a lot of work to do there.
And all that brings us to our current action plan. The current plan of initiatives, activities, papers we will roll out in the next months. You can have a look at it on the tables during the cocktail later on, and obviously we will publish it on our website as well. There is something for everyone in there, in the different areas which we work in. So let's have a quick look as well at what is going on within our association recently. When you work your way through our invitations or you have a look at our Beltug agenda on the website, you see that we bring you a variety of different events in all kinds of flavors. There are the N-sides, there are the Beltug Bar, like today. We have task force meetings, we have debate rooms. Some of the events are for a larger audience, like today. Some are more ex cathedra, and others are 100% about discussions and about exchanging knowledge with one another. Some are with a high level of networking, others, the networking is a bit shorter. The challenge for us this upcoming working year will be to decide on which of the topics we will handle in an in-person setting and which of the topics can be in an online setting. It will be a search for us. Sure is that the topics that will need more interactivity, will need more in-person discussions, well, they are more likely to be organized in a live setting. For sure, even the sessions that are online, there as well you will be invited to ask questions, to come with your opinions, your own experience. That is how we love it at Beltug. Now, we're not only about events, we're not a mere chat group. It is important to talk to one another and exchange best practices and knowledge with one another, but we also want to provide you with hands-on and pragmatic recommendations on our website. Papers that you can download where you find immediately usable recommendations and tips for your digital strategy. And in a few weeks, there will be a few new ones coming up. Next week, actually, we will publish our recommendations for corporate policy, an important document these days with that new tendency of working from home or teleworking at a larger scale, or the hybrid working. And later on, we'll have 2 new papers on privacy. And actually, all of these papers are also built on the expertise among our members. Several of our members have actively contributed to these papers. So many thanks for your continued support in bringing this content to us and making sure that what we have on our website is founded information and valuable to all of our members. And you've certainly heard about our task forces. Internally, we have a pet name for our task forces. We call them baby Beltugs. Maybe you have heard that as well. We now have 5 task forces in total. In each of them, experts in a certain field of expertise, in a certain area, come together regularly every 6 to 8 weeks, and they exchange concerns with one another, they ask questions to each other, they exchange information with each other in an open discussion behind closed doors. As a general rule, there are only business users in these task forces. And we have currently 5 of them. 231 of our members are actively engaged in these task forces. We have one on security, one on vendor management and software asset management, on digital innovation, on privacy, and we have what we call a CIO cabinet, a group of over 35 CIOs that, here again, they exchange information, questions, and best practices with one another. And there's another task force, a more ad hoc one, where we have a look at the struggle to innovate when you are bound to public tendering. For companies that are bound to public tendering, that is a true challenge. And I can't forget about our council and our board, they are also built upon our members. They consist of business users. And they share knowledge and experience, as I said, and important, the discussions they have within these task forces, well, they are a basis for new initiatives for the entire community. There are checklists coming up out of these task forces, and so on.
And we also use what we hear in those task forces, and also what we hear in all the bilateral meetings we have, like we have, I think, daily contact with business users, in all our contacts with the government, so both at the Belgian level, as Beltug, and at the European level, together with the 4 associations I mentioned from France, Germany, and the Netherlands. So we have very good contacts now with the Cabinet de Sutter and Cabinet Michel. These are the 2 most important. But if we discuss, for example, the copyright on software, then it's the Cabinet of Van Petegem. And so if we are talking about the public tendering, there will be other ministers involved as well. So we really feel there's a good traction, both Belgian level and European level, that the voice of the business user is really appreciated quite a lot, because they see that digital is so important for our economy, and I hope in the panel we have afterwards that will be more clear than ever. But so there's a very, very nice willing spirit to hear our voice, to listen to the positions we're preparing, and so they are coming up and running. So it's not always the written positions. There are some examples on the slides, but there's also a lot of just informal meetings with the different governments, and that is something we absolutely want to continue.
And with our new colleague in the team, Levi, he's in the back. You can meet with him later on or during our events. Well, we can now work even harder on setting up events, on creating recommendations and papers for you to download, and to come up with peer practices, and to write positions that we use in our conversations with stakeholders like government, like ICT providers. Whenever you have a question, never hesitate to come and see us, to reach out, drop us a mail. We are always glad we can help.